Okay, hey, how you doing? Justin back again now for the open Q&A session. I think we've got quite a full collection of questions already going on. There's lots of good questions today, actually. Things like Joan asks, black or milk chocolate? Has to be dark chocolate, although I quite like white chocolate, just not keen on milk chocolate so much. But it's all good. Classical guitar lessons anytime? Probably not. Just I enjoy playing classical guitar, particularly in the summer. I sit in my garden and I practice classical guitar just for fun, for my own enjoyment, but I don't really feel like I've got it together enough. I mean, I can play well enough that I could probably teach you, but I don't teach classical guitar, and I've not really ever taught classical guitar, so I'm not sure I want to get into teaching that because I'm not sure I'd do a very good job of it. So one of the things that I was going to talk about in the session today was looking at a little bit more kind of rock stuff and try and give you some easy licks that you might be able to work on to try and develop your kind of faster playing sort of stuff. And one of the things that a couple of the two things I was going to try and kind of focus on was 3-note per string scales and finger tapping. They were the two things that I thought would be kind of fun. So, and I have lessons on both of those a little bit, but not a whole lot. So I thought that would be a fun thing to do. So let me know if you want 3-note per strings or tapping. Go, and I'll, because it'll take 30 seconds to go through, I'll answer a question in the meantime. Will you do a lesson on the Hop for Teacher? I might, if I can play it well enough, then yes, maybe. Advice for learning long solos: take it one chunk at a time and learn each lick as an individual thing, and then practice putting it together, and make sure you're using transcribe to make sure that you can play it at play along slowly and gradually, and make sure you nail the time feel as well as the notes. Sir or Strat CS? This is a Sir. I've got some. I've got a couple of custom shop strats that I like very much, including the Jeff Beck one, and it looks like it's a bit of a mixed bag between 3 notes per string and tapping, but 3 notes per string is kind of winning, so I'm going to start with that. So let me just put up a heavy rock kind of a sound here, because I got one going on. Where's that heavy rock sound that I had going on recently? It's not there. I'm sure I favorited it, but it doesn't look like it's transferred into here. So let me just do all rigs. Fuchsias was, I think, one of the ones that we've been looking at lately, but I'm not sure if it's this one or not. It's a little bit too heavy. Let me just get the sorry, I want to get my sound happening, because sound makes quite a difference. So where's that cable gone? Where's that going? Oh, that's the wrong one. That's why. Where's the USB cable that goes to the Kemper? There it is. So I'm using this thing called a Kemper profiler at the moment, which is because I've got a problem with the electric feed in the studio. There's a train near at the back, the back of the next studio. There's a train line, and it seems to be throwing this weird noise into guitars and amplifiers, which is well annoying. Why isn't it got all my favorites listed? All rigs. Where's favorites? There we go. Favorites. That's the one that I was using for rock earlier. Okay. What's it called? Guytron. Don't know Guytron amps, but this particular sound on this thing is, I think it's pretty good. So let me just explain the basic idea of this 3-note per string idea. So most of you will be aware that the major scale is generally played with 5 positions, 5 patterns that fit around the cage system, and I think that that's probably the best way to start looking at scales and major scales and improvising. So you have kind of an E-shaped chord and then the major scale that fits around it. The problem with doing this is technically you've got 2 notes, 3, 3, 3, 2, and then 3 again, which for lots of things, for hammer-ons and flick-offs and picking and all sorts of stuff, can create kind of inconsistencies, which are removed when you look at having 3 notes of each, 3 notes from the scale on every string. And what that does is gives you these scales that kind of move up the neck. So if we look at G, okay, so it's just literally the scale for G major will be 3rd fret, 5th fret, 7th fret, 3rd fret, 5th fret, 7th fret, then 4, 5, 7, 4, 5, 7, then 5, 7, 8, 5, 7, 8. Okay, that would be the scale. Now you can already hopefully hear that you can do quite comfortably pick, hammer, hammer with that. Or pick, flick, flick. Okay, now one of the things that you definitely want to work on when you first get into doing this is making sure that your timing is good, because what you don't want to end up with is, right, you want to try and get a consistent rhythm in the notes. So okay, you really want to be trying to get a nice, you know, consistent rhythm. So if you're just playing it as a scale up and down like that, it doesn't tend to fit in for most people, at least when I was learning it like that, and even though I'd learned some patterns within it, I found it very difficult to make anything kind of work like that, because it's a really big thing and it doesn't sound very cool because it's just a scale. But what I found really helpful was looking at little chunks of that scale, particularly the ones where the notes were, the fingers were in the same shape on 2 strings in a row. For example, using this middle part of the G major scale. And what I'd recommend you do is start to have a look at a few different ways that you could use just that little small grouping. It's just fingers 1, 2 and 4, 4th fret, 5th fret, 7th fret, 4th fret, 5th fret, 7th fret on the 3rd string as well. Now, as soon as you get into playing any sort of rock stuff with any distortion, and you're talking about doing anything fast, there's a couple of things that you need to bear in mind. One is that you need to stay relaxed all the time. So if you allow a lot of tension to build up in your hand, you're not going to be able to move it fast. And it's the same, and if you're doing any martial arts stuff, you'll know if you're trying to throw a fast punch, that if you're really tense all of the way through, you can't move your hand. It's just, even if you're not doing martial arts, you can kind of imagine that if you're trying to keep really tense in your hand and move it, it's a lot harder than if you keep your hand really relaxed while you're trying to throw the punch and you just tense it up at the end of it before it makes contact. So when you're doing these kind of exercises, you really want to concentrate on making sure that you keep your arm and your shoulder nice and relaxed when you're doing it. Really nice, simple kind of beginner fast exercises are usually based around things that are fairly simple. So a good one is just using the hammer-ons thing, because that can be something that can get quite quick, quite fast. If you just practice doing 4th fret, 5th fret, 7th fret, but doing it as even triplets. So 1 triplet, 2 triplet. I've just done another thing that I need to point out to you as well, which is making sure that you mute everything. So as soon as you're playing with high gain, you need to be using this part of your hand there to mute any of the strings that are higher, physically higher, lower sounding than the notes that you're playing on. And the underneath of your first finger should be muting, first finger or other fingers as well, should be muting all of the strings physically lower down than the note that you're playing. So when I'm playing that first note, that hand is muting the thicker strings. You can hear if I'm rubbing on it there, it's making a noise. And the underneath of my first finger is muting the thinnest 3 strings. That's really important. Otherwise, if I take off all the muting, you hear how messy it is. Okay, so as soon as I put the mutes on, you can hear the notes clearly. If I take the mute off, it just sounds horrible, right? So make sure that you got that muting under control. That can be very, very helpful. And in fact, one of the mistakes that I made when I was learning kind of rock guitar in my teen years, I was into Satriani and Vi and all that sort of stuff, was that I was practicing a lot without an amplifier, and the reason was because I thought if I practiced without an amplifier that it would help me draw a better sound out of the instrument, and I'd be more aware of making notes clear and strong, which I think I did, and I tend to play quite hard because of that, which is sometimes not a great thing. But it also meant that I had to go back and revisit everything later on when I started playing amplified, because there's a lot of sloppy stuff going on, right? So, and there probably still is. Anyway, so make sure you got your muting, and then you want to sit down with a metronome and do that thing. And metronome stuff, if you want to play fast, is what you have to do, right? There's all of the guys that I know that are technically really good and fast guitar players that are also good teachers that there's quite a few of them that I know. And they all of them say that you've got to do stuff nice and slowly and accurately, right? That, and I know some guys that are seriously fast, and that's what they say. So if we do this at 100 beats a minute, first of all, and just do triplets. So you want to make sure that you're getting absolutely every note, and you're not going like, it's got to be nice, etc. Then you bump it up, when you feel confident with that, you bump it up to 105. And you keep going up in small increments like that. Because if you jump, like if I jump now to 125, it might have been too much of a jump. It wasn't in that case. So I'm just going to jump it up to 140 because otherwise I'll get bored. So 140 now. Now at about 140, I would then recommend dropping it down to 70. And now you're going to be doing 6 per click. So it's the same thing, but now the click's here. Yeah, so. And again, now if I bump it up to 75, it's like I've gone up 10 in the old system, but still. Let's get it up another 10, 85. And you might be doing that much, a week's practice on that, right? I'm not saying that you do like moving up this quick. I've done my time doing this nice and slowly, but it's 95. You go on 105. Now. Let's keep going, see where I can get to. 125. Okay, I can still kind of get there. 135. Might have gone over my limit there. 130 maybe, might be alright. Okay, you get the idea. Now, that 130 is a little bit loose for me. I've definitely had stuff faster, those kind of groupings faster than that, but I'm, not warmed up or been doing this kind of practice for quite some time. Now, the point of doing that is to try and train your fingers and you want to be practicing, trying to keep yourself nice and relaxed while you're doing that, but really making sure that you're accurate. So as soon as you get to the point where anything's going slightly wrong and it's not really working, you want to knock that right back, okay? Now, I would recommend practicing these things in little groups, okay? Not trying to practice the whole scale. If you're trying to do like, it just it's too big. It's not really worth it. Although I must say, I did used to practice doing all hammer-ons off that G major 3-note string G major scale. Just doing like now I've got this little problem here, which I can explain to you. The reason I find this awkward is because I never play first finger, third finger, fourth finger, right? I don't like it. And I'm not sure if it's to do with my little finger being the little stumpy thing, but I find it really awkward to do that. And there's two schools of thought again, this is kind of an important / interesting discussion to be had, I think, is that whether you practice and work on the things that you can't do, or whether you accentuate the things that you can do, right? So, and this came back to a conversation I had with Steve Vai. I'd never really thought of it before, but he said he only worked on his strengths. He never worked on his weaknesses, which I thought was a really interesting thing. And since then, lots of times when I meet great guitar players, like properly great guitar players, they say that they're working on the things that they find easy because that becomes their style, rather than trying to push themselves through the stuff that they can't do. Okay, it's a really interesting idea. Another good example is Scott Henderson, the jazz fusion guitar player, and one of my favorite guitar players. Incredible musical genius, brilliant guitar player. Can't alternate pick to save his own life. You know, he's really hopeless, which is cool because it gives the rest of us hope. But it also shows that he's really worked on his legato playing, like he's using his hammer-ons and flick-offs, as a compensation for that. So, for example, and where that's all coming back to is, if I was doing this, I probably wouldn't go. I did years ago. I used to practice that, and even now it feels so awkward to do that because I haven't done it for like 20 years. Because it was that long ago that I decided that I wasn't going to do that anymore. That it was just like, no, man, this is not. It just feels awful to me to do that particular finger pattern. So I'm much more likely to change at this point into this. So for me, for G, I'd be going from here. So I'd change the fingering of the scale and move into the next pattern before I got to the bit I didn't like. Okay, now I'm going to point out again, just in case any of you didn't notice already, I'm not a shred guitar player. I'm not a heavy metal guitar player. There are loads of guitar players around that are loads better than me at doing this stuff, right? I used to be better at doing it because that was a thing that I was really into in my teens, but I don't practice it anymore really at all. So I'm kind of a little bit out of my comfort zone here, I'll confess. But I wanted to give you some of these little ideas to play around with because they can be quite fun. So for example, just using the 3-note per string scale and the hammer-ons, you can get yourself through here and it ends up being fairly... You can make some nice little licks there, and the idea of it, the thing behind it, is actually pretty simple. It's just using hammer-ons. Exactly the same thing works for flick-off. Although they're notoriously harder. A lot of students I've had over the years that have said, oh, they really enjoy doing the hammer-on stuff, but they found the flick-offs really, really hard. But so you might find that as well, that doing just flick-offs by itself is hard. But where I think this 3-note per string thing really happens for me, anyway, in a way that I actually use it, because doing those sort of the hammer-on thing, I don't ever use that as a lick or a thing. You know, I just doesn't get me excited. But doing a combination of hammer-ons and flick-offs on a group of 2 strings where it's the same fingering is really nice. So this let's take that's the same pattern. This 1, 2, 4. I'll do it on the thinner strings now, just for... If we take going all the way up as hammer-ons and then back down, we end up with a really nice little cycle. So we'd end up having 7th fret, 8th fret, 10th fret, move on to the thinner string and go 7, 8, 10, flick off back to the 8th and flick off back to the 7, and then on the B string we'd then have 10th fret, 8th fret, 7, 8, 10. So it ends up being this cycle. It's relatively simple because it's literally just pick, hammer, hammer, pick, hammer, hammer, flick, flick, pick, flick, flick, hammer, hammer, pick, hammer, hammer, flick, flick. It's only 2 picks. Pick, hammer, hammer, pick, 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 pick. Cool thing about it is that it can move as well. Once you got that pattern, you can move using your first finger. If I take it back down the, oh, I can stay there actually. I can slide with that first finger. When it goes back, I've slid, now I'm in the next pattern. First finger can slide again. So you can see then suddenly that you can move from one pattern to another pattern quite comfortably using this little lick. And that's often the kind of thing that Joe Satriani used to do in those big long legato runs. A lot of it was based off of this idea of a 3-note per string scale with shifting usually around the first finger. So you could get this whole little thing in G going. And that would all be just hardly any picking. Oh, that's the other thing that you can, I'm kind of getting ahead of myself, but sometimes you don't need to pick if you're moving down the neck, because you can get away with a hammer on enough to go. That was a bit sloppy. So all of that way, only one pick was happening there. I'm moving this hand away. It would normally be doing muting, but I just wanted you to see how little picking there was going on. It's a whole lot of picking with, a whole lot of notes with hardly any picking. So yeah, when you're moving down, sometimes you can just do a random hammer on as well. There's loads of examples of Satriani using that, but lots of other of those kind of heavy rock guys get into doing that idea as well, moving. So yeah, that's the idea. And then it's just a matter of learning where the different patterns link up together like that to take the G. You can do, if you use that particular pattern and go that was sloppy and not a good pattern. I'm trying to figure out exactly how to describe what I'm doing because I haven't played or taught this stuff for a long time. But I'm basically taking that little pattern and then going up 3 and back 2. Up 3 and back 2 again. God, that's so sloppy. Oh, God, man, I'm so out of practice at this stuff. Anyway, once you figure out where the links are, I'll change key. That's why I didn't want to do that. You can start to mess around with what the scales are and where they're linking up and all sorts of fun stuff. But the idea is just taking this really simple little idea, little physical movement, and then trying to explore the potential of that idea. Now, the other part of the equation that I think gets a little bit sloppy or a little bit misunderstood is that if you don't play in time, it can sound a little bit weird. So often if you're examining a solo by a great guitar player, you'll see these things where you know, it's like a group of 11 or a group of 13 in a beat, and very rarely is it calculated. So a lot of like Steve Vai solos or whatever, you'll see these rhythmic groupings which are a little bit weird, and Steve is definitely capable of playing nasty rhythmic groupings, I should point out, and is you know, he did with a lot of his stuff is very calculated. But a lot of times it's just as fast as possible. Who's a better example? Eddie Van Halen, better example of the odd rhythmic groups that is just like he's playing as fast as he can and he's got a target, so he's trying to finish on this note, so he's going to go flat out as far as he can and finish here. But it's not really as calculated. You know, you might find 7 notes in one beat and 8 in the next, and then 11 or whatever. You know, it kind of varies a little bit. So one of the things I used to practice more that funnily enough, I was just practicing, was it last week? I sat down and did a little bit of shreddy stuff before the stream, and is making sure that you're playing those sort of things in time. So the beat won't necessarily always fall where you pick. So if you're thinking like, you know, so trying to keep that where that pulse is. So where that beat is falling, where the first of each group of 4 notes, where, you know, if I was playing 16th notes, you really want to make sure that you can play that in time as well. Particularly this little movement. If you're going to do it as where you pick, like this first note, or actually a better example is this. Is it a better example, or is it going to confuse you even more? No, let's so on each string there's going to be 5 notes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now you can think of 5 as being the count, but it's a lot less usual to be playing in 5s. Yeah, playing in dividing a beat into 3 or 4 or 6 is more common than 5. 5, if you wanted to get into it, is counting hippopotamus. So hippopotamus is 5 syllables. So hippopotamus, 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 hippopotamus. Okay, but the problem with that, as soon as you start, if you get into the habit of playing the beat with the pick all the time, as soon as you move out to another position or something, or there's a different number of notes in the sequence, you're a little bit screwed. So I think it's generally a better idea to practice in rhythmic groupings that kind of work nice. For example, quite a nice one that I like, I use quite often, is having 1 note on one string with nut pick and then a down pick on the next string and having 3 notes that go down and back up and then that note. So we get this nice group of 6. So now that particular pattern I really like. It's got lots of uses for me. So I might use it in a blues, like that kind of thing, where I'm just using it. There's an easy way of doing that, or using the blues scale. Yeah, that was sloppy. Sloppy as well. Yeah, anyway, there's lots of different ways of using this kind of little idea because it's got a rhythmic subdivision that is easy to handle, easy to use, and easier to use at a high speed, because it's very obvious that where you're picking is where the beat falls in that particular group of 6. So how many people have I lost here? Is this making sense for you guys, or yeah, is this making sense? Is there any questions to do with this particular concept? I know it's you know, you're probably getting the idea. Well, hopefully you're saying that it's not really my thing, this style. I can kind of do it a bit because I was into it as a kid, so it's some of it's kind of stayed with me, but you know, it's a little bit sloppy, you know. So yeah, questions to do with this, learning this stuff? Okay, I've been looking for my first pedals. That's not really to do with this, but if you haven't got any pedals at all, a good one is the Nobel's ODR1. Great distortion pedal. Definitely worth looking at. Okay, so helpful, interesting. Okay, not specific questions. It's kind of making sense. God, you get some winners here, don't you? Look at this guy. TJ loves to eat. Woo! Man, you must... I feel so sorry for your mum. Jesus. God. Poor people. Trolls, eh? Can't live with them and you can't kill them. Is maybe do some slower as well as fast. I mean, the thing I was talking about there, Michael, was really just the... Everyone asks about fast stuff all the time, so I thought I'd give you a little bit of that sort of stuff for... Have a look at it. Have a look at how... Because it's kind of calculated, you know. It's not just... the things that you might play slowly and the things that you play fast are usually different. There are, and again, there's exceptions to every rule. There are some incredible cats around who can play incredibly complex lines really fast. I love this guy, Tom Quayle, who is kind of a fusion guitar, jazzy fusion guitar player, who plays really very nicely flowing melodic ideas very fast. And it's he's not many of the really fast guys do I like the contours of their lines, you know. Whereas Tom Quayle has that thing going on for me, like a bit like John Coltrane had, where you have this huge amount of notes coming out very, very fast, and you don't really hear the notes individually. You hear this, I think they called it the sheet of sound or whatever, but there was this, you get a texture from all of the notes. Okay. Yes, Keith, I know that we can block those people, but I just win them. Okay, can I go on with the tapping? Okay. I have trouble hitting single slide notes on slide guitar without all the other strings ringing out. Then you need to check out my lesson on slide guitar, lamb. I thought it said lamb's bottom. Lamb's botham. Sorry. When should you practice arpeggios rather than scales? When you know why you should practice arpeggios. Tom Quayle has wonderful legato technique. He does indeed. Oh yeah, because of the delay. I'm just wondering why everyone's talking about Tom again. Okie dokie. So let's have a little look at the tapping thing. Should we do the tapping thing, or should we just do a random Q&A and save tapping for next week? So, tapping or Q&A, go. And put it in the questions. I'll enter another question until the feed catches up. Is it possible to play chord melodies for just about any song, or are there some better suited than others? Definitely some songs, the melodies are going to fit under the chords nicer. So, you know, definitely some songs are going to be better than others for chord melody, but you should be able to kind of do most chord melodies if you look for it. Can I explain what comping is? Comping is short for accompanying, so it's usually just playing the chords. Okay, it's pretty equally. No, it's definitely Q&A's winning over the tapping. Okay, so it's going to be general Q&A now, and then we will have a look at finger tapping next week. And we might do a little bit of, if you remind me next week, we might do a little bit, oh wow, blocked by chat, you know, London Taylor, winners. God, there's so many SPACs in the world. Sorry, I get distracted. I shouldn't allow myself to get attracted by trolling statements, but you do. I mean, I don't get offended by pretty much any of them. It's just, I feel so sorry for people that have got nothing better to do than go and rant silly stuff on the internet. It's like, really? You poor thing. Anyway. Okay. Jack the Dipper. If you play a melody, there are always chords from these single notes. How do I find them? So, a really good one. Let me just go back to a clean sound instead of the ridiculously over the top heavy metal thing. Hang on. What do I fancy? The Lux Reverb I quite like. What's this one? No, I prefer that Lux. Okay. I'm really, I don't know if you guys know, so I think this Kemper, really, really good sounds for, you know, for this general being able to change from one sound to another sound very quickly. So when you find lots of different chords for a melody, there's lots of different ways of approaching that. When I was doing a lot of songwriting, the thing that I used to find most enjoyable was finding all of the different chords that could have the one melody and just doing it by ear, really. So going, I've got an E melody note, I could have a C on the bottom, like a C major 7, or I could have a C sharp minor, or I could have a D sus2, or I could have an E flat 7 flat 9, or an F6, E6, sorry, or a F major 7, or an F sharp half diminished, or a G6, or a G7 sharp 5 sharp 9, or an A7, or an A minor, whatever, or a B flat major 7 sharp 11, or a B minor 11, and then I'm back to C. So you could hear I found a different bass note with a chord for each different still E melody. So you can, you know, there's a very famous song called One Note Samba that you might like to check out, which is a similar kind of idea of this, looking at all the different chords that can have the same melody. Okay, some questions over here on my other shit. I'll come back to the stream in a second. Clifford asks, when will WeCast come to the US? Well, 2 of WeCast are already in the US. That's the reason we don't tour, is because 2 of the band live in the States and 2 of us live in England. So we just get together once a year to make a record. We're not planning on touring soon, although we'd love to. It would be great fun. We need a kind of a successful single to happen to finance a tour, basically. Please talk a bit about soloing between chord changes, asks Bruce. So I guess, so what we're talking about when we're talking about playing over chord changes is where one scale doesn't fit over both the chords, and you have to get used to being able to play different scales or different approaches over different chords. And a good way of doing that is to set up like a little groove. There's one on my Jam Blues CD which goes A minor to C sharp minor. Again, it's just alternating between those two. I'm not sure what happens if I, hang on, if I do that. No, that's, yeah, if I do that on the headphones, let me just, sorry, I'm just, no, ooh, okay. I just unmuted the studio speakers, but of course it's getting picked up by that. I haven't solved the backing track issue. But yeah, so I need my looper's not plugged in and I can't put a backing track on at the moment just because of the way the audio is routed in the studio right now. But if you took something like if you wanted to play along, if you've got a guitar, you know, if I play A minor and you play A minor pentatonic scale, and then we go to C minor. So then you've got to play C minor pentatonic over that. Back to A minor. Actually, I just thought how I might be able to do this. If I unplug that and plug it into... If you want to play along, if you've got a guitar... hang on. No, it's going to get too complicated again. Okay. Yeah, I know. Sorry. I hope you guys didn't have headphones in. Yeah, but basically you need to practice moving from one scale or one arpeggio to another. And I'm just trying to see if I can find a quick backing track. on there, but I'm not sure if I've got all of those on my in my account. In fact, I'm fairly sure I don't. Just let me check, and if I do, because it would be good to explain this, and it's quite a common, something that I'm hoping many of you would find helpful, which is why I'm taking the time to do it. Johnny Smith. I don't have any Justin Guitar songs on my phone at all. No backing tracks. I'm sorry. If somebody reminds me next week, remind me to, and I'll just buy them, and on my phone, and then I can, or move them. I'll find a way of putting them onto my phone. Yeah. I just can't think of a way of doing that. So, but basically, you have to. There are certain times, like this A minor to C minor. You can't just play the one scale over both of those because it'll sound really horrible. Mainly because the A minor has this note C, and the C minor has the note E flat. So you get a clash between those two notes, and other notes in the scale. It just doesn't sound right. So. Yeah, sorry guys about that noise before. I've just seen everyone complaining. Sorry. I won't do it again. Yeah, I need a backing track to take on that question. Sorry. Andy asks, how do you play a reggae strum, getting it to sound good? So there's a really good example of why it's important just to get the feeling of it right. Check, 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 check. You know what was that one that I did the other day? I did a beginner's lesson on a Bob Marley song. What was it? So I'm just opening my Spotify now just to give you an example, because again this could be quite helpful. I'm not offline. Come on, connect me. Thank you. Search Bob Marley and the Wailers. That's live. Where's the other popular songs? Come on. As usually it says more there. Sorry guys, 1 second. Oh, there's hardly... That's weird. It's all funny funny versions of stuff. No Woman, No Cry. Is that the one I'm thinking of? No, sorry, this is probably not very exciting for you. What was the one I did recently? Three Little Birds? No. It wasn't Three Little Birds, I don't think. But that'll do. I'm not sure if you can... That's getting picked up. It's in a funny tuning. That's not very... It's like exactly in a bad... Oh, come on, what's the other Bob Marley song in the beginner song? Redemption song? No, that's not it either. I'm just saying because it was such a nice groove to play along with. No, I can't figure out how to stop it. Stir It Up. That's the one. So let's stir it up. There we go. Can you hear that? Okay, let's get my phone plugged into this. Oh, now, oh man, I'm having not very much luck with the old technology here today. Cable won't fit in my phone without the case. Okay, let's see if that happens now. Let's turn that down. Yeah. So, can you hear that little so tasty. So that's just got this. it's very quiet. So it's just got, it's really strong having this. Okay, and it's about having this. Oh, it's just gone so quiet all of a sudden. Okay, let me just turn the volume of that down then, so I don't blast the life out of myself. I can't see where the volume is on Spotify. That's not going to be very helpful. Where's the volume gone? On my phone. Come on, that's the one. Volume there. Okay, let me just. Okay. So just doing this, it's really good for your practicing your groove. Try and get your groove so it's exactly I was rushing a bit there. Better. So trying to get like a really good for you to be able to practice 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a. It's the and an after and a 16th note after. Just down up, down up, down up, down up. But you can see my hands moving the same all the time, right? 1 E and a 2 E and a 16th notes, but you're just playing the and the up. 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a. So much fun. Now, most of this track, hang on, let me turn this down. So most of this track has got this and check, 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 check. So definitely not playing the chord and just practicing the. It's a really, really, really good exercise because you take away the stress of trying to play the chord and trying to get the grip right, but then you just really work on your time, which will help you for every other reggae song that you want to play ever, if you try and absorb that time feel. So trying to get into that is a good good thing. With this particular song, it's just A, D to E, down, A it up, D, do, E, God, A it up, B, do, E, God, A it up. You can't really do that kind of strumming on open chords. It doesn't really work because you want this choppiness of the chords. So what I do is just like if I'm, right, that's the groove, but I'm just pressing the. There's no muting on over here. Okay, it's all this hand just like that, and then just, and there for the D. It's really the D, the A-shaped bar chord version of D, but I'm just playing strings 2, 3, and 4. E, same. Okay, and the other really cool thing on this song is this other little riff that's here. I think that's what it was. Need to listen to it again. Here we go. There's a different one there later in the song. Okay, so if we go back earlier in the song, here. Changing. It's not exactly consistent all the way through, but you get the idea of there's this kind of movement there where trying to play, again, it comes back to that time feel, you know, because I think that was the original question, was about this trying to get the feeling of it right, you know, and trying to just really it's got to be relaxed, you know. It's that, I always imagine, like, you know, I'm really stoned and just like really lazy and loose, and trying to put myself in that kind of feeling, because that was, you know, obviously a big part of what Marley was about, you know, or that style of music is about. So I think that's, well, does that kind of answer your question there? And yeah, you could be doing it with I Shot the Sheriff with a, you know. So much fun playing that, those sort of grooves. Anyway, okay, I'll have a look here on this. M. Sully asks, question, can you demonstrate string muting while playing a blues fill over multiple strings? Something along the lines of your Blues Lick 42 Robin Ford style. I'm afraid I don't know which one the Blues Lick 42 is. So I would have to... Oh no, not that page. I nearly lost the stream there by closing the wrong window. That would suck. Blues, lead and rhythm. See the trouble I'm going for you there, Miss M. Sully. I don't know if you're a man or a woman. Blues Lick series, lick number 42, Robin Ford style. Okay, so I'm not sure what. I'm not sure what you mean about the string muting, though. So, with any of those sort of licks, right? So, that part of my hand is sitting on all of the strings there, but gradually it's lifting up like that onto the pick guard. So by the end, it's actually sitting on the guitar, not on any of the strings, because I want to play that. It's a good lick, that one. I've forgotten about that. Anyway, hopefully that answers your question. So it's just, yeah, keeping the palm on the thicker strings and then gradually rolling it off as you get further on down the neck. Hopefully, yeah, you were able to see that. Just checking the camera angle. Toby Jenner, question for part 2. Can Justin outline the new Blues Lead module course? How does it differ from the current modules? When is it likely to be fully available? It is coming out every week, every Tuesday, about lunchtime UK time. It runs for 13 weeks. It's all of the same modules that were in the first one, but with more. So there's a few new modules, one on blues curling, one on vibrato. I can't remember, there was another one or two extra ones added in. We're working on the DVD now. I had to film an intro and I had to film some bonus material. The bonus material is flashy show-off blues licks and mixing in blues and rhythm, blues lead and blues rhythm together. That's the two bonus lessons. About 25 minutes worth of lessons that you get if you buy the DVD. DVD should be available in the next couple of weeks. Can you explain what I am looking for when playing harmonics? So Lucky, you might want to check out, there's a lesson on how harmonics work on the website, because if you understand how harmonics work, then you know what it is that you're looking to do. Because harmonics are kind of like a physics experiment that you can do on guitar. So you go and check that lesson out, because it'll explain it a lot better and in more detail than I could do here. Jamie's asked, when I try bar chords, the G is never played, no matter how hard I press down. Any suggestions? I can't find the answer to it anywhere online. So if you're not hearing the G string, it's almost certainly your little finger here. The underneath of your little finger will be muting the fifth string. So you need to get the little finger more up onto the tip. I can't think of any other reason why the G string just wouldn't be ringing out. That's, if you're assuming that, especially on a minor chord, it's very easy to just, it's only the tiniest little movement that the little finger lays down to touch the G string. So my guess, which it has to be from here, would be that that's what's causing that problem. Perhaps it's an odd beginner question. I'm struggling with playing G with fingers 2, 3 and 4. Should my baby finger be curled or straight? The finger seems to have no muscle. Yeah, it needs to be curled. That finger definitely needs to be curled if you're going to do G chord that way. Yeah, it'd be next to impossible not to do it that way. Okay, is there a... Sheikh Daddy asks, is there an open chord version of a C minor? Well, there's not. And the reason really... is that C minor contains the note E flat, sorry, that was C sharp minor, and we've got an open E string. So just the logistics of playing that C minor chord mean that you can't really, there's not really a way of playing it as an open chord note. It's the short answer. No, there's no such thing as an open chord version of C minor. There's a few things that you can kind of, ways that you might be able to kind of get away with it by leaving some notes out, that kind of thing, but it's not really like playing the whole thing. So guys, it's 8 o'clock. It's about that time where I have to say goodbye, I'm afraid. It's been a really good fun session again. I hope you've enjoyed this. I think the idea, I'm hoping you enjoy the idea of kind of taking a bit of a look at a focus thing at the beginning of the open session, and we'll pick a different thing every week. I thought that our little adventure into reggae ideas was quite a good idea, and I'm happy I've figured out the plugging the phone in so I can get some backing tracks. So I'll try and get some backing tracks organised for next time, and we'll revisit the idea of playing over these different different chord changes, because that's an interesting thing to do. So I think that's about it. I need to go home and have some food. I'm actually really starving. I didn't have breakfast today and just a bit of toast for lunch, so I need to get home. Now, oh yeah, next one. Very important. Thank you very much for reminding me, Mr. Lamb. Next week and the week after, I'm afraid I can't be here. Next week I have a thing that I have to go to with the missus, and the following week I'm actually having a holiday, so I won't be here for the next 2 Saturdays. So I'm really sorry to leave you in the lurch after we've only just got this thing kind of rolling regularly, but there's none next week, none the week after, but I'm back on the 25th, I think it is, or 26th or 27th. I'm not sure. It's on the website, the 20-somethingth, the last Saturday. Yeah, it's really, I love you guys, but I sometimes I just can't get stuff rearranged in time. But I'm going to stick with trying to do as many as I can, because I've got a couple of appointments in March that I can't escape from as well. All of this, in a few months' time, I'm going to let you guys in on something, and a lot of things will make a bit more sense as to how things are rolling at the moment. But anyway. So, big thank you. I'm sure all of you guys will join me in thanking the moderators as well, who keep all of the idiots under control. So that's DJ Keith there, and Tourniquet, or Tawny, who's Miracles Lead or something is his tag in the chat there. I'm not sure. I didn't see Lee Evan here today. 27th, everyone's reminding me, will be the next show. So I'm sorry it's so long between between hangs, but we'll definitely be having another session there. So very soon, and it'll be good fun on the 27th. I'm sure we'll have a good laugh. So look, have yourselves a lovely week. It's Saturday today, so you've got Sunday off. Tuesday will be the next blues lesson, which is, for some of you, it's going to be a little bit easy. It's going to be the minor pentatonic scale, which you might think is like, oh, don't need to do that, I've learnt that already. But check it out, because there's a couple of things in there that you might find a little bit interesting that I've incorporated into some of these blues lessons, that I've looked at the questions everyone had before and updated them in a way that I think some of you guys will find it kind of interesting anyway. So yeah, big thank you, mods, again, and I will see you all in a couple of weeks. Of course, I will be around, and I might be doing, actually, you guys be interested, I might be doing a couple of live streams from Facebook, because Facebook have got a new streaming thing as well, which I'm going to give a go to in between now and the next stream. So keep an eye on Facebook. I'm just going to be saying how I'm going to be doing something shortly, and then it'll happen, just because it has to roll like that for the time being. Okay, I can hardly talk, and I definitely need some food. So thank you very much for coming along. I really appreciate it, and I'll see you all again very soon. Much love, you all. Take care of yourselves. Bye bye.